So Scott, I mean, I know you drive around, you go to the grocery stores there in Las Vegas. Is everything kind of tame now that everybody left from the Super Bowl a couple weeks ago?
Back
to normal?
Getting back to normal, especially if you live away from the Strip. So it's pretty cool. I mean, it was fun. It was, again, that was even better than I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be crazy to a certain extent of, there's going to be just massive traffic jams everywhere. But, I always got to remember Vegas knows how to party. They do it about 3 times a year, including New Year's. So it was a great time. And again, it is getting back to normal. You can actually drive around a little bit easier now.
As Rock alluded to in our last segment, I'd forgotten Live Golf had their tournament there in Vegas at the same time, kind of like the Waste Management Phoenix Open when we had the Super Bowl here last year. I can only imagine just the buzz and the hairiness of the locals to kind of fight around anything and everything that was in town there.
Yeah, it's one of those things where you gotta kind of put up with it, but at the same time, there's no state tax, so we appreciate everybody coming to town and spending a few bucks, and so that's kind of the way I try to look at it. But you're right, the only problem. I don't know if it was a problem or a good thing, but with that Live Golf tournament that was here, we didn't quite get the color that you guys got at your tournament down there a few weeks ago.
All right. We have no football to bet, so we can't do that. So college basketball, sure, it's close. But how about some NBA, buddy? Can we talk some NBA with you today?
Absolutely. And by the way, we got football in a month, guys. I think this UFL is going to make it.
There you go.
So I'm going to say that for now, and then we'll talk about it, in a month or whatever if you guys want. But,
okay,
yeah,
I can do that.
Man, NBA college basketball is what it's all about right now.
All right, Suns last night, they lose a tough one in Dallas. So now they got a back-to-back. They got a Houston team that they're going to see 3 times in the next 8 days. -4.5 Suns. How do you look at games when you're coming off a back-to-back loss?
I think with the All-Star break, it doesn't really bother me too much. And, it's funny because some teams do actually cover spreads well when they're the second of back-to-back games. And one of the reasons is that you assume that a team is going to be maybe a little bit worn out, or maybe a couple of stars are going to sit, and more than they normally would in the second of back-to-back. But there's 2 things that kind of even things out a little bit. One, the books are baking that into the cake, so to speak. They're baking that into the line that most people are going to feel that it's a tough spot. And also, if you look at how teams did the game before, the night before, a lot of times if it's a wide margin win for the other team, I just check the minutes, and you'll see like, wow, okay, well, they were knocked around or they blew out the other team, and their minutes are really shared about 9 deep on players. And then there's other times when games go right down to the wire, and you'll see the starters, maybe the 6-man, all played a ton of minutes. That's when I like to go against those teams. But in this one, it's interesting because you've got a situation where that line was once 4.5. It's now 3.5. I do like the road chalk here now that it's below 2 buckets. But basically what this line is telling me is that even though, Van Vliet hasn't been mentioned for Houston as being out of this game, he could have some concussion issues. And that line moving the way it does tells me that he's likely playing. So here's what I like on this game, guys. Grayson Allen, I think, is a nice prop play tonight, over 12.5 points. He had no trouble with the Rockets when they last met. He drove the paint. He scored inside to go along with his normal perimeter play. And I think over 12.5 points is the best bet of this game tonight with Grayson Allen.
I think, too, the Suns are ready to kick somebody's butt after losing by 10 to Dallas last night. Doesn't that go in the blender as well, too, Scott?
Absolutely. And that's why I lean that way with the Suns. And, I think if people are going to play the Suns, do it now while it's sitting at 3.5 because anything's going to go up a tick by tip-off.
All right, second game, the Clippers -9.5 at the Grizz. Looks like the over-under's at 233.5. Clippers are just staying steady as she goes, and I think just about everybody is healthy. I think Paul George was questionable there, but 9.5 at the Grizz.
Yeah, I went against the Clippers last night. I also, at the same time, did play Paul George over with his assists and rebounds combined, and we got there. Hefty number tonight, but the Grizzlies aren't scoring. There's no Bane. There's no Morant, of course. They're averaging under 105 points per game in the month of February. Very little depth on this team right now, and the Clippers playing well on the defensive end. They're tied for 5th in the league with the Suns, and effective field goal percentage allowed are the Clippers. And then, you got the Grizzlies having a little more than Jaren Jackson as a consistent offensive out right now with their injuries. So I believe the Clippers are going to bounce back from last night's loss. The only real question mark for me with the Clippers, how much is Kawhi Leonard going to play? He played just over 30 minutes last night, and you just got to wonder if they're going to play him for a full 30 tonight.
All right, Bucks and Timberwolves. Timberwolves quietly one of the better teams in the NBA, the top of the Northwest Conference, and they're going to go at it tonight, 8 o'clock local on ESPN. Giannis versus Anthony Edwards. This Timberwolves team's won 4 straight. I don't know what Doc Rivers is doing. He hasn't been able to kind of get this team on track yet. So how do you handicap this one?
Yeah, look, it looks like Giannis is going to play tonight. He's listed as probable, but of course Chris Middleton's still out with the ankle issue. They're 3-7 straight up and against the spread in their last 10. The Bucks and Doc Rivers. I mean, a lot of us out here in Vegas are like, this guy's not the answer. They're not going to be in the NBA Finals this season. He has terrible playoff results, other than when he had the big 3 in Boston 15 years ago. A lot of guys could have won with those 3 players: Garnett, Rondo, and of course Pierce. But you can dump your coach when you're 31 or 32 and 14. But did you really expect them to be better without Drew Holiday this year, who's now with the Celtics? I mean, they lost Grayson Allen too. We just talked about him. He was a double-digit per game scorer the last 2 seasons for the Bucks. They're not shooting well at all of late, guys. In the last 4 games, they were okay against Denver, but in 3 other games in the last 4, check this out: the Bucks have made 42 of 135 three-pointers. That's 31% shooting. And if you stretch that out over the course of the season, that's dead last in the league. That's 3 percentage points than the worst team in the league right now. So Minnesota is the NBA's best in defensive efficiency. So I don't think Milwaukee is going to bounce out of their slump tonight. They beat Milwaukee by 24 not too long ago, and that should give the Bucks extra motivation. I just don't trust this team right now. They look like they're just, discombobulated, dysfunctional, whatever you want to call it. And without Middleton, I just don't think they get the job done against, as you said, man, they're flying under the radar, the T-Wolves. This is a very good basketball team that's getting no hype around the country.
Scott, weren't the Bucks only 2 or 3 back until Doc Rivers turned? They're 9 back now since Doc Rivers. I think it's a fall of at least 6 or 7 spots since Doc Rivers took over.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I still believe as long as Middleton was healthy and Giannis stays healthy, that this team had a chance to get the Eastern Conference Finals, as did the odds makers and a lot of bettors. I had them losing to the Boston Celtics, but they just look like they're a mess right now. And again, they really miss Holiday. They really do. And you can see it. And now with Doc Rivers, it's just like nothing's flowing. I can't even see this team making it to the Eastern Conference Finals, let alone their big goal this year, which was the NBA Finals. This could be another first round and out season for the Milwaukee Bucks.
All right, college basketball, some upsets abound. Scott, be curious to see what games you'll be looking at. You got some of the games. You got Houston at Baylor. Got a big game there. You got Iowa State, West Virginia. I mean, is this parity at its finest? What we're seeing here these last 2 weeks?
Yeah, it really is. I mean, my gosh, this whole season we've seen it looks like 16 teams that could win the national title. I'll tell you what, one thing that it's gone back about it's many years now that the team that's won the national championship in college basketball has finished 40th or higher in the top 40 in both offensive and defensive adjusted efficiency. There's about 8 teams that fit that prerequisite, if you will, right now as we speak. But I think it's even deeper than that as far as
2.
Look what Creighton did to my boys. Creighton did to UConn the other night, blasted them from start to finish in that game. But I think looking at UConn on Saturday is a potential play. There's only one book around the world that I can find that has lines out right now. They always put them out early, and they're usually off by a couple. So it's tough to really give an opinion here for Saturday. But UConn's a team I'll look at to bounce back. Hurley was not too happy with the goings-on in Omaha the other night. And then also Auburn, guys, they got knocked off by Kentucky. Bruce Pearl was beside himself throughout the second half of that game. I had Georgia. That's who they're playing. I had Georgia the other night to snap their 6-game skid. That was against Vandy. I think if this number is going to stay when other books chime in, it's currently 7 at this one particular book. I think Auburn's a play you look at tomorrow too.
Scott, as always, buddy, have a great weekend. Thanks for your time. We'll talk to you next week.
Always a pleasure, guys. Take care.
Scott Spreitzer joining us. Scott wins on Twitter and DocSports.com online. Check it out. You'll see how well he's doing on all sports as he does a tremendous job and coming on with us for over 15 years. So we appreciate Scott Spreitzer, as always, here on Rockin' Manooch with Jimmy B. I do want to tell you about G2G protein bars. If you have not heard about them, if you've not tried them, you need to, and they're available at Costco. They're not your average stale, off-the-shelf protein bar. I'm telling you, these are fantastic. They have 8 flavors. My personal favorite is the peanut butter banana chocolate. And what makes these bars so delicious is that they're fresh, no preservatives. They're stored in your refrigerator, not in your cabinet. You can put one in your lunch, in your golf bag. It's a great way to get some solid protein and healthy fats into your diet. So check it out for yourself. It's in the refrigerated section of Costco, or you go online to g2gbar.com. Check it out for yourself. Football at 50 and the locks of the week are next. CBB, Fox Sports 910.
It is clear. Cavino and Rich.
Steve Cavino.